Hey everybody, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. I don't know if any of you all are struggling with allergies this year. Here in Utah, man, they've kicked in early and they're pretty brutal. I haven't really dealt with them in several years. I thought I was kind of fading away from even having to deal with it, but I've had to take an allergy pill the last couple days because the sneezing and everything that goes with it is just not very fun. Anyway, welcome back. Thank you for the last time. Tack för sist. Välkommen tillbaka. I really appreciate everybody watching, the thumbs up, the likes, the comments. The comments are the coolest things, but when you subscribe to the channel, that's really cool too. I really dig just kind of watching it grow and seeing all the feedback. It's I say it all the time, there's no point if nobody watches. I guess there is a point. It's kind of a digital diary for me. Excuse me, someday my kids and grandkids can look back on when I'm not here anymore. That's a weird thought, isn't it? This is not the subject I'm going to talk about today, but I was thinking about this yesterday, about how one day we're just not going to be here anymore. I mean, it happens to every one of us, you can't get away from it. And as I get older, I wouldn't say I think about it more, because I've never really been scared of whatever's next. I look at it a couple of ways. Either there is nothing, and we won't know the difference anyway. When you're gone, you're gone. Hey, there's nothing to worry about. That's not what I believe. There's too many things out there that speak to there being more after this life. And I don't know what that is, but I think it's probably something really good. Assuming you live a good life. I do believe in some sort of a reward system. That's probably not the right word. You live a good life, you earn something in the next life. You live a bad life, you got to pay for it. And, in the case of like murderers and, well, we don't need to get into all the details of the crappy things people do, but hopefully there's some sort of punishment. If they don't get punished in this life, the next life. Anyway, that's kind of what I believe. And it kind of leads me into my subject for today. So I have mentioned many times that I used to be a member of the Mormon Church, the LDS Church. I left over 20 years ago. My name is technically still on the records, and I've had a bunch of you say, you got to take your name off. I just don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. So, just know that if you want to write and say, hey, you got to take your name off because of blah, 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 it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't consider myself part of that church anymore. I say it all the time. I have a lot of respect for that church because I learned a lot of good things, a lot of good values, met a lot of good people that are still in my life. I live in a community that's, a lot of Mormons live here. Many of them are like me that have left and they're just kind of still on the records. Some of them are very active and nice people. But what I wanted to talk about today is the process of leaving. I've talked about why I left and how I left and that kind of thing, but it seems like there's a fair bit of interest in this out there from both Mormons and non-Mormons. And I know I'll get some criticism and some of you will say I'm an idiot, and that's okay. I say it all the time, that kind of stuff does not bother me. Somebody behind the screen calling me names, if it makes you feel better, good for you. It doesn't do anything to me, and I don't react to you. I'm not going to respond to you. Those of you that leave nice comments, positive, encouraging, I try to get to all of those. And I do feel like we're kind of friends, even though we don't know each other and we'll probably never meet. Now, I know there's some watching that know me, and I know them. And most of them don't tell me who they are. They just say, oh, we know each other, blah, blah, blah. And that's cool too. Whatever works for you. So the process of leaving that church, it wasn't just like one day I woke up and said, I'm out. It was a slow process. So, I mentioned I didn't want to go on a Mormon mission. I went because my parents really wanted me to, and I wanted to make them proud of me. And they changed it to 1.5 years. If it had stayed 2 years, I don't think I would have gone. I know I have a friend that's probably watching this video that said if he'd have known how bad I wanted to come home, he'd have sent me the money. And I appreciate it. You know who you are. But at the same time, I'm glad I stuck it out. It was a good experience. I learned a lot. But when I got home, I first went to Rick's College, which is now BYU, Idaho. And then I transferred to BYU, which is where I graduated in Provo, Utah, which is not real far from here. I'm still a huge BYU football, basketball fan. Yes, the basketball team broke my heart last week. We were supposed to be competing for a national championship and we crapped the bed. It wasn't good. But DJ DeVanza was amazing. I'm glad I got to see him play for BYU. But yeah, I came back. You know, when you go to those religious schools for the Mormon Church, you're required to attend meetings. I can't remember if it was a percentage of time or you're supposed to go all the time, but it was required as part of meeting the honor code. Maybe I'll talk about the honor code sometime, because I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it but don't really know what it is. I'm sorry, these allergies are kicking my ass. So I basically lived the honor code when I was first at Rick's and at BYU. You know, I wasn't perfect by any means, but I didn't do a lot of partying, that kind of thing. But I did find myself going to church less and less and less. And I got married the first time in 1989. And I met my ex-wife at BYU. And we were married for about 5.5 years, and we had a daughter who's now, she'll be 35 later this week. And she's amazing. I don't have any regrets about that either. We never meshed. We weren't meant to be married. But the church puts a lot of pressure on you. I was 25 when I got married, and I felt like an old man in that church. I've got a 25-year-old son now. He's not ready to get married. He doesn't want to get married yet. I think he's starting maybe think about it, but at 25, you shouldn't feel pressure like, wow, what's wrong with you, old man? And for girls, it was like 21, 22. Wow, how come you're not married? So that pressure started pushing me a little bit. But I got married, and we got married in the Mormon Temple in Salt Lake, which I said was not a great experience. It was like herding cattle. Very unimpressed. Now, I've heard that people that have gotten married in the smaller temples, we were going to get married in the Manti Temple, which is about an hour and a half south of here. Really old, cool temple. I've heard those are really cool experiences, but the Salt Lake Temple, if you are LDS and you're thinking about getting married in the temple, I wouldn't recommend that one. We got a number. We were herded through there like we were cattle. There were probably 40 or 50 couples that got married that day. Not a good experience. Another thing started pushing me a little bit. But we got married. You know, I made a vow. I wanted to live up to that, so I tried going to church. We went to church. I skipped here and there, but I tried. And for our whole marriage, I tried to be an active Mormon. I found excuses to not go. I know we had some arguments about it because, you know, she wanted to be LDS. I was already getting to the point where in my mid to late 20s, I was not really feeling it. So we got divorced. And as soon as that divorce happened, I cut loose. First of all, I was in a deep funk, which I talked about a few videos ago, about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, around the fire. I think the video is called A Hard Video to Make. So if you're interested, check that out. I talk about the funk and how I got out of it and how maybe you can get out of it. But yeah, I was on the road. I had started traveling a fair bit before we got divorced, traveling around painting self-storage facilities, mostly in California and Colorado at the time. And every once in a while, I'd go to the grocery store on a Friday night after work, and I would pick up a 6-pack of beer. And I found that I liked it. I mean, I had partied some in high school, and frankly, after I got back from the Mormon mission, I had a couple of years where I partied, and I always had fun. And I never really understood why, I'm not like a daily drinker. I drink on the weekends. I like beer. But I never understood, why is this such a bad thing? I mean, I get it when anything gets abused, whether it's food or alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or whatever. There's a point where things get abused, but I never really understood, why is this so bad? And so I had my moments, but after my divorce, I was like, you know what? F it. Everything's falling apart. I might as well at least enjoy my weekends. I'm out here on the road by myself most of the time. I go to bed every night. All I do is watch some TV. There was no internet. There was no social media back then. And I'm just bored out of my mind, depressed. So on Friday and Saturday, I started grabbing a six-pack every weekend. And then I met my wife, who I've now been married to. It'll be 30 years this year. We met in the summer of '95. So 31 years ago. And her family had converted to, I can't remember if her mom was Mormon. I know her dad converted, but mostly just for her mom. And she kind of grew up in the church in Southern California, which is a very different experience. That's something I should talk about. It's a very different experience being Mormon in Southern California or in Alberta, where I grew up, than Utah. Very different. Way more judgmental in Utah. That's something I need to talk about. Raising kids as non-LDS people that were LDS people is not easy in Utah. A lot of very judgmental people, a lot of good people, don't get me wrong, but the judgy ones can be rough. So we dated, and I was still doing my thing on the weekends and having a good time because I was on the road a lot. It started getting pretty serious. I still did. When we got engaged, I kind of stopped it all. And we got married in November of '96. And I tried for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, to go to church when I was home. I baptized my oldest daughter, even though they didn't want to let me because I didn't go to church when I was on the road. So I wasn't worthy. And I just found that it didn't fit me. I didn't feel like I belonged there. So I slowly started grabbing a six-pack on the Friday and Saturdays again. And I didn't tell my wife about it, which is not cool. Do not do it. I'm not proud of that. But I've said on this channel, this is me. Honesty, sometimes I hurt myself being too honest, but that's who I am and that's what I'm gonna be. So yeah, I didn't tell her, but I hung out with her sister and her friends in Southern California. And on the weekends we would go to, the bars or go out to, Oktoberfest or whatever. And I had a good time hanging out with that group of people. I got to be careful with what I say because I don't want to incriminate other people. Anyway, let's just say that it got harder to hide, and it came out kind of by accident, but I was relieved that it did because we finally talked about it. And it turned out that she was trying really hard to be Mormon because she thought that's what I wanted. And I was trying really hard to be Mormon because I thought that's what she wanted. I'll say this also, on Sundays when we would get our kids ready and go to church and stuff, it was our worst day. We fought all the time on Sundays. Didn't fight hardly ever any other day. And when we left the church, that stopped. The fights became way fewer. We're like any married couple. We're not perfect. Every once in a while we have an argument or disagreement, but pretty mild. And we finally decided, you know what? It's not for us. In fact, we gave it one last fling. And I went to the bishop of that ward, and he was a really young guy. Didn't like him. But I told him, hey, listen, we're going to give it one last go to try to be members of this church. But we don't want any callings. Don't ask us to be a Sunday school teacher or an elders quorum presidency or any of that stuff. We just want to come to church and see if this is what we want to do with our lives. Well, the second I went out of town, he violated that trust. He came to my wife and asked her to be in the Sunday school as a teacher or something. And my wife's, especially back then, was quite shy, introvert, but she didn't know how to say no. So she accepted it, and I was pissed. I was like, I came to you and asked you not to do this, and then the second I leave, you do it. Frankly, I wanted to beat the crap out of the guy. I was not happy. That pushed us farther, and it wasn't long after that that we're done. And that was probably very early 2000s. So I'd say it's going on 25 years now that since we left the church. And, you know, I have a church right behind me here, a Mormon Church. I have no problem with it being there. They have parties and stuff right behind my fence. I have a pretty private yard with lots of trees. But I, not one time, have ever driven by there and thought, oh, I miss that. I wish I could go back. I need to go back. I've not one time felt that. And there's lots of good people there. It's just not for me. So I guess the main story here is it wasn't just like an all of a sudden thing. It was a process that started when I was probably 17 years old. And by the time I was, 33, 34 years old, I was done. I'm 62 now. I hung around for a couple more years and just tried to make it work, but it wasn't for me. No religion is for me. I don't need religion in my life. I know a lot of you have written and are going to write that I need Jesus in my life and I need this or I won't be saved. You know, I appreciate your opinion. I respect your opinion. I disagree with your opinion. I have my own relationship to God and Jesus and nature, and it's good enough for me. I hope you're happy with your choices. I really do. I hope whatever you do, whether it's religious or not, that fulfills you. And I feel fulfilled. I don't need to go sit on those hard bench pews and listen to somebody tell the same talk I've heard 83 times. I do not need it. Anyway, this is kind of a longer video, so I'm gonna wind it down now. But again, I love getting your input. Even those of you that are gonna try and convert me back to whatever, to Mormonism or whatever religion, it's not happening, but that's okay. I read them with respect, and I will, as long as you're respectful, I'll reply to you, or at least I will try to. So that's the story. I hope you all have a beautiful week. I hope these allergies stop kicking my butt. I've mentioned before, I also have a TikTok account. It's the same name, Norwegian Arnold. Check it out if you'd like. We got a pretty big group there, and it's kind of fun. And it's way more just goofy songs and stuff. So check it out if you'd like to. For now, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a beautiful Tuesday and the rest of your week. Takk for denne gang. Vi snakkes igjen snart. Fordelelse med Norge. That's the Norwegian flag, by the way. This is one of my t-shirt designs. I can't decide if I like it or not, but anyway, have a great day, and we will talk to you all soon. Peace. Love.